Welcome back, warriors, to Wednesday Wisdom. I want to go over a topic that might give you that aha moment. It's called the power of interruption, the pause, where fear ends and guidance begins. Now, we have been talking about seeing beyond the fear. Today, I want to give you something simple but incredibly powerful. I want you to visualize a pattern. Imagine a road. You have traveled this road for so many times that you don't even have to think about where you're going. You know every turn, every curve, every stop. You could almost travel it with your eyes closed. Now, imagine that suddenly you stopped. Not because the road disappeared, not because you don't know where the road leads. You simply interrupted the journey. You stopped long enough to look around, and suddenly you realize I don't have to keep going in the same direction simply because I traveled this road before. That is the power of interruption. Let me go over this concept. The power of interruption is when we often talk about changing patterns as if we have completely destroyed the old way of responding. But sometimes the first step isn't changing the pattern, it's interrupting it. Think about what happens when you trigger something within you. Something happens, your body reacts. Your thoughts race. Your mind searches for meaning. Fear creates a story. And before you realize it, you're responding to it. It's almost like a train already moving down the track. Trigger, thought, emotion, reaction. But what if you place a pause between the trigger and the reaction? You create a gap. And inside that gap, you create choice. So get into the habit of trying these little things that I'm giving to you right now, because this is going to help you create the space that you are longing for. This connects directly to what we discovered in the brain within. Your brain learns from repetition. When a response is repeated over and over, it becomes familiar. Maybe your familiar pattern is uncertainty equals overthinking, conflict equals avoidance, rejection equals self doubt, fear equals immediate reaction. Your brain isn't necessarily asking, is this the best response? It's often accessing what has become familiar. That is why you can consciously say, I am not going to overthink this anymore. And then something happens. And suddenly you're overthinking again. You're not broken. Your brain has learned a pattern. But here's where your power begins. You can interrupt the pattern. And in this very important moment, you can rewrite the interruption. Let me go into it a little deeper. You don't have to immediately replace the old patterns with a perfect new one. First, interrupt it. If your normal response is to immediately send the text, wait. If your normal response is to assume the worst, pause. If your normal response is to shut down, breathe. If your normal response is to say yes when you mean no, give yourself a moment. If your normal response is to say yes when you mean no, give yourself a moment. That moment looks insignificant, but psychology and behaviorally, it can become a different response. Interruption creates space. Space creates awareness. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates practice. And practice is where learning can occur. Now, let's bring fear into this mix. Fear is not necessarily your enemy. Fear can be protective. It may remember something your conscious mind has forgotten. It may be responding to something that genuinely deserves your attention. But fear can also respond to the possibility of danger rather than danger that is actually present. And that's why we don't want to silence fear. We want to listen without automatically obeying. And that, my friends, is discernment. Now, I know this is very impactful, and this is going to help those who need that extra little help when it comes to this topic. But remember, fear and guidance may both say, stop. This is where things become profound. Fear might say, stop. Guidance might also say, stop. Fear might say, don't go there. Guidance may say the same thing. So, how do you know? You slow down, you gather information, you regulate your body, you question the story, you look at the facts, and then give yourself enough space to listen because a feeling deserves attention, but it does not automatically deserves authority. Let's practice the interruption. Think about one situation you've been dealing with. Nothing overwhelming, just something where you notice yourself reacting automatically. Now visualize the pattern. See the trigger. See the usual response. And now stop the movement. Imagine pressing a pause button. Take a breath, pause, notice your body, notice your thoughts, and ask, what am I feeling? Pause. Then, what is fear telling me? Pause. Now, what do I actually know? Pause. And finally, what becomes clear when I stop reacting? Don't force the answer. Just listen. And here's the key. When you take this little activity that we just did together, you can begin to identify what is a fear, what is guidance, because you took that moment to pause. So I want you guys to implement this throughout the day. And your 4 words to carry: pause, interrupt the automatic response, breathe, give your body space, discern, separate fear, facts, assumptions, and inner knowing. Choose, take the next aligned step. Then repeat. This is how our work continues: regulation, neuroplasticity, discernment, embodiment. Those are your friends during this time of inner and understanding. What are you feeling? So I want you to remember this deepest wisdom. You don't have to change everything today. You take it one step at a time. You notice, there I go again. Instead of judging yourself, pause. Instead of saying, why am I like this? Ask, what am I practicing right now? The question changes the conversation because you're no longer identifying yourself as the pattern. You are becoming the person who can observe the pattern. And once you can observe it, you can interpret it. And once you can interpret it, you begin to practice something different. All right. So if you are very interested and excited for this moment, join me later on this evening and we will do our guided meditation implementing what we just talked about. All right, guys, have a wonderful day and I'll see you back here for the guided meditation. Until we meet again. Bye bye.